What's up? Welcome to another edition of XFeed. My name is The Schiller. We talk about NFTs, Web3, all that stuff that most people are like, why in the world would you pay attention to that stuff in this day and age? Today we're going over a little bit of the grapes happening from yesterday. We do have a video up where we kind of talked about some of the things way back when it was originally announced. And it's funny because I almost feel like an NFT historian, a Web3 historian in a sense. And I mean, if you go back to the videos and if you go in the live stream section on YouTube, obviously there's like a whole bunch since January of this year. But if you go and scroll through the videos at a point, we've done a ton of different interviews with different founders. We've done a ton of different highlights of different collections and things. And it's funny just like taking a moment to reflect on what was said at the time, things that we thought were hyped up and amazing, and other things that, they definitely had signs. But at the same time, I think that one of the big problems and one of the reasons why I also think that we could see an absolute run, again, with everything Web3 and specifically NFT related, is think of how many people haven't experienced all the random crap that we've dealt with that's going to be coming into the space, that's going to be completely oblivious to certain things. And it was making me think a little bit earlier, to be honest, where back when like Zed Run, Bored Apes, NBA Top Shot, things obviously that have been like sustainable and around, but at the time, there was kind of like a peak, and then it felt like everybody was going into other collections and things that were popping up. And clearly we've seen like a huge discourse between the people that are still kind of around or the companies that are still building something versus the ones that are not. So we have a lot of information to go off of, and that's where on one of the recent live streams, if you go and check out about the perception piece that I did on one of the live streams, that's one of the reasons, right? Because we have so many touch points to be able to judge something. A lot of new people, if they decide to get in the space, they're not going to have that. But I'm Dolly, what's up, dude? How are you doing? All right. So off the rip, the amount of backlash Grapes have gotten is absolutely insane, to the point that the founders that sold off the project had to make an announcement of their own. And I think it's also kind of funny when you're on the timeline. I had I want to say maybe 10 plus different posts from like decently notable names that were just like rephrasing the Grapes collapse. But it's like, guys, this happened yesterday. Guys, this happened yesterday. But don't worry, you were here. You're here live. You probably watched the VOD. You got the news on the time that it happened. But anyway, Dan, one of the original founders here for Grapes, and the studio behind Grapes is called Viker Games. They were relatively big in terms of doing mobile games. They had a ton of downloads, ton of ad revenue. If you want, you can watch the old video that I did on them, because they talk about how they were going to give like rev share. They were going to build out experiences in Fortnite and Roblox, and it was just like, I don't know, dude. Anyway, Dan says, "Dear Grapes community, I want to take a moment to address the recent news and share our perspective with you directly." Now, what's funny about this initially is this, for perspective's sake, this is the shit that happens all the time. There's some kind of PR statement of like, hey, we're shutting down, we're selling off. There's a mass amount of backlash because they don't take the time to actually word this stuff out initially to begin with. You can have live streams of videos of the founders talking, explaining things, but it's not. It's this untransparent BS that we have to deal with all the time. There's massive outrage on the timeline when it could have been prevented if the messaging was correct at the beginning. So if you're in PR, listen, I know a lady, I can get you in touch, because holy smokes, people suck at this. Anyway, since the very start, Grapes has been a labor of love for Ben and me. We've nurtured it from the simple idea into a thriving reality. This journey has been nothing short of incredible. Together, all of us have built a vibrant community, created exciting games, and established a brand that we are immensely proud of. Since token generating event, we've explored every possible avenue to ensure Grape success, except for the fact that, remember, they had a pre-sale for the token that was on ETH, and they randomly dropped it, the entire token and everything, on BNB. Why they do that, I have no idea. The bridge function was absolutely terrible. That rinsed you. You ever go and wash your dishes and then you rinse out the cloth? Now pretend that's you, that somebody's rinsing you out, absolutely rinsing people on the bridge. But sure. The success of Grapes. We've expanded our games across web, iOS, and Android, developed and launched the games pad Launchpad, significantly bolstered our social presence, and brought on exceptional new team members. We've worked tirelessly with our new market makers to address liquidity concerns around Grape in 2024. I don't think they've improved anything, but maybe I'm wrong. I know that many of you are focused on token and floor prices, and I want to assure you that every decision we've made has been with the goal of turning things around. However, to reignite the bullish momentum we saw in 2023, I don't know if 2023 was really that bullish, except for the fact it was one of the only tokens out there that was backed by Animoca, and everybody was like, oh my God, it's backed by Animoca, which is the same thing because it was backed by Binance, backed by Animoca. There was all these things that were narrative when there was very, very few collections launching because there was such stringent attention that needed to be made, right? Like if you're coming into the space right now, unless you were a major IP, you're just asking for an absolute slaughtering on the timeline, to be totally frank, right? And for them, they had not the 10,000 collection, so they're smart about the 3,000, but then they went to some insane heights, talked a lot of crap, and then it just, fell flat. It's essential to embrace the fresh ideas and innovative strategies. That's why we're excited about the future of Grapes. To truly elevate Grapes and reach the next level, Ben and I recognize the need to step back from the day-to-day operations. We believe it's time to bring a new dynamic and experienced team, one with the expertise needed to accelerate the next chapter of your journey. So to retrace back to the perspective avenue, all right, guys, do you remember Bored Ape Yacht Club? Do you remember the exact same kind of thing where the founders were like, hey, let's bring in the VCs, the other people that we think are going to do a better job? And it absolutely rinsed everybody again. See, this is what I mean. We have perspectives of reasons why this doesn't work. Who the hell is the new people taking over? There is no transparency about that whatsoever that we've seen. So I think people have a complete right to be like, what? One of the expertise was needed to accelerate the next chapter of our journey. The incoming team brings deep expertise in Web3, and we're confident they are the perfect fit to lead Grapes forward. Who is the team? Who is the team? Hey! Who is the team? Nobody knows. This is not the end for Grapes. We firmly believe the best is yet to come. We're on the cusp of achieving a new milestone and groundbreaking successes. Okay, dude. And we're thrilled about what lies ahead. Thank you all for unwavering support, and we hope you'll continue to welcome us here as we transition into this exciting phase. Now, the question then goes into, okay, is there, some issues, some legal ramifications of some sort? Why are the founders backing out of it? They get an absolute bag and they're like, hey, sayonara, right? Like there's all these different things when things aren't super transparent. And I get it. We're not going to know everything, but that's what I call tough. Now, yesterday, right, we go from one bad thing to the next, even though yesterday there was Friend.tech and Grapes, but Friend.tech made a statement again because everybody freaked out because they suck at the initial PR statements. Notice this common trend of communication in Web3 as garbage. We hear your questions about Friend.tech. Here's what you need to know. We have no plans to shutter or discontinue the Friend.tech web app. The actions below guarantee that no future changes can be made to smart contracts deployed on Base, which would raise or create new fees. These actions do not affect the current functionality of the Friend.tech web app in any way. Everything you know and use remains the same, except for the narrative, which is all that matters in Web3, is kiboshed for Friend.tech now. That is what I call tough. Now, Zeneca had a wild post here that takes you back down memory lane in 2021. He did some articles, Art Blocks, Misfits University, Wicked Craniums. Let's talk about this right quick, because for anybody that's a little bit late to the party per se, even though the party was over a while ago, if you know what I mean. But the point being, so for Art Blocks, this was basically a generative art collection. There was a lot of desire on the platform. There was several collections that sold out, price ranging all over the place. I feel that we've not seen the generative art as much on the timeline. I don't know if that's because of like AI concerns, even though for a lot of these generative arts, it was more like just specifically coding. But I feel everybody's kind of hemming and hawing about certain things right now, just like within the art space overall. But was massive at a point. Misfit University. So this one was an absolute doozy. I'm telling you, I imagine you remember Misfit University. So it was a collection that basically was just a bunch of human characters, but they also had like a monkey. I think there was like a robot, some other things. It wasn't really that outlandish at all. And then the reveal happened, and there was a couple of ones where these characters looked like teenagers, essentially, and there was some with like tape over the mouth and like wearing a dunce cap, and it looked like kind of like abuse in a way, and people took it to like the max extreme. And at the same time, you have to remember that people are like trying to be creative with their different attributes on these different NFTs, and it was just like, it went over super badly. It got shredded to pieces, and basically the collection got some interest. Some of the rarer ones got some higher sales, but then that narrative of, oh, this looks like an abusive collection, then it went basically straight to zero. Now, Wicked Craniums. This one was super interesting where like Avenged Sevenfold, some other band. I actually sold a Wicked Cranium to the Avenged Sevenfold band, in which I was scrolling on Instagram one day and they were doing a contest giving away the NFT that they bought from me, and I didn't know it was Avenged Sevenfold, but I was like, this is strange. Remember, I've had like really random conversations with like relatively notable people within just like other industries and stuff, because there was a lot of people jumping into the space at the time. But Wikicraniums, they are still doing things. They are focusing more on like the music industry side of things. I actually met the devs at one of the NFT NYC events, and they were super cool, and they were kind of going down the path of trying to build out like a platform that other people could build on and whatnot, but they're still around, so I think that that's really cool. My effing pickle. So this was a collection, if you remember Cole Ethereum back in the day, he was running that. There was just a collection of different pickles with traits on that. Was kind of hype leading up to it, and then it quickly fell to the wayside. Super Yetis was a collection that was amongst all of the craze during Bored Apes, Cool Cats, Gutter Cats, as we saw in the next one that we're about to mention. And I remember the team was really mad that it didn't get more attention at points, but there was a lot of people being hyped up on Yetis because they said that they were doing a game. I don't know what's going on with Super Yetis right now, but Zeneca, first sentence on that, why I dislike this project and why I aped it anyway. I want to start to the start to the article there. But yeah, I think they're still around. I don't exactly know what they're doing, but again, it was touted from 3D avatars to being able to have a game. Gutter Cats, this one's kind of a weird one. This was very shortly after the Bored Ape Yacht Club mint. There was some problems where they launched the contract early, so people were like minting it ahead of time. There was only 3,000 for this. If people missed the Bored Ape mint or just vibe with the Gutter Cats more, that was more of a timeline presence. They did a lot of things that were basically an exact copy of Bored Apes, from doing like the Las Vegas event that was similar to Ape Fest per se. They had a lot of different secondary collections where they had like pigeons, dogs, and some other character that I'm forgetting off the top of my head. For clones. And I mean, they're still around, but they're one of the teams that I believe sold off as well. Because I mean, their whole thing really did kind of feel like it was focused on like branding of like just the Gutter Cats, but then doing whatever Bored Apes did. And is that fair? I don't know, but it just kind of felt that way. They've also sponsored some different basketball events. I guess some talks about Bored Apes in there. Apimon, this was one of the early collections that had a unrevealed egg. And I believe that there were certain NFTs that were worth like a lot, right? Like, oh, there was a Bored Ape or some other things that were in some of these eggs. Or maybe not. Honestly, I don't remember because I never bought into it, but this is one of the earliest hyped up collections as well. And it's wild going down memory lane, seeing what's worked, what's not, how many people have pivoted, how many people also haven't worked once they pivoted, which brings us to Doodles. And I think that this is a very prevalent point that is worth mentioning here after all the TIFF, the Pharrell, Lil Wayne, et cetera, et cetera. I'll say this politely, there may be some hard truths. The Web3 industry should be immensely grateful for what Doodles did this weekend. If a studio and showrunner takes a meeting with your team, there is no doubt they will take you more seriously and think you are less scammy because of what Doodles has done. Full stop. No one in Web3 has come even close to legitimizing Web3 native IP and shedding the stains of our past. Now for holders of Web3 projects, knowing that Doodles is conservatively 12 to 24 months ahead of any other Web3 project, it's kind of a bold claim. We could argue that. And I mean, look at your bags. If you have zero exposure to Doodle, seriously ask yourself why. Okay, so why don't I have any? I got into the Doodle box, like the Genesis boxes before, got completely rinsed on those, felt like a huge cash grab, and haven't really gotten back into them because of that. So that's my answer to that. In an industry that is consistently finding out the emperor has no clothes, the Doodles stepped out of the fitting room and proved they weren't naked. Can you say the same for your project? I mean, some of the stuff I'm in, like Featureverse, I feel pretty good, and they're partnered in that way. But I do, like, I mean, not to take away from this, like I definitely believe that they had done something really, really cool. I hope that this isn't just like a singular one and done event though. You know what I mean? Like how we've discussed certain games, they've kind of like on the timeline for a couple days, week, maybe a month, and then it feels like it kind of fizzles. Hopefully they have a bunch of stuff that are continuing, and it sounds like that is the case. So we will see and watch with anticipation. So SuiPlay, yeah, I have no idea what the heck this is. I guess this is a game engine. Woo. It was kind of loud. Apologies if I just blew out your ears there. But it looks like almost like one of those Nintendo DSs, the PlayStation Plus. I forget what they're called. I guess like a handheld console. And one of the notes that I had with this, which is kind of interesting, and this is obviously built on Sui, and they're having hardware similar to like the Solana phone. Going down in the comments here is Team Liquid, one of the major esports teams that are out there. Again, million followers. Look at all the different sponsors they've had. Coinbase, Sui's one of them. Very interesting as an esports watcher. Always intrigued whenever I see those pop up on my timeline. Okay, so this is just some charts back from 2023 talking about some different areas for the games market. And very interesting where we have Asia Pacific with 85.8 billion, which is 46% of the global market just in Asia Pacific. So if your team's focusing on that region, maybe that's a good thing. And then North America coming in second here at 51.6 billion, which is 27% of the world, right? Not bad, not bad. Kind of cool stats. Thought I'd share that with you. Now, when we talk about game enthusiasts, total online population, baby boomers, 43%, not insane. Gen X, 64%. Millennials, hello, 82. Guys, we got to bump that number up. You know what I mean? Gen Z, 90%, and Gen Alpha, 94%. So when we talk about the future, when we talk about interest of things, it's always super interesting, right? Because I think we can make the argument of, everybody's always like, oh, go and buy into these different stocks, do this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, I feel like everybody's just getting online all the time. So how do you focus on things that are online? Obviously, there's stocks to it, but now with this whole Web3 blockchain interoperability, yada, 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 is this going to be something that's new that really takes kind of the limelight? And these numbers are, again, wow, huge difference between baby boomers to the Gen Alpha by magnitudes. Now, another piece here from NFTgators.com. I thought this was kind of interesting. The RWA sector is experiencing rapid growth, with usual money, Hashnote, and Ondo leading the charge. But this chart is just showing where the valued locked for RWAs are, and it is basically entirely in Ethereum. Entirely. Now, Tron had a huge jump up earlier in this year. I mean, I guess like towards the end of last year, and then it feels like it's like just completely gone away, which I think is kind of weird. Not really sure what exactly that is. Is that stable coins? What does that mean? But yeah, Ethereum leading the charge massively in the RWA space. Now, there was an article that was posted the other day, and we've highlighted a little bit about the dimensionals, which was a Web3. And shout out to my dad, who's actually sent me a bunch of these articles. It's been super helpful, so thank you, sir. But so it says Minnow Games shifts dimensionals from Web 3 to Web 2 amid challenges. And then I noticed this was weird. So on the bottom of this, it says, in a statement, Minnow Games emphasized its commitment to delivering a high-quality gaming experience, noting that the move to Web 2 will allow it to focus on improving gameplay and expanding its player base without the added complications of blockchain technology. So if there wasn't complications within blockchain technology, or if it was easier, would they have stayed? I guess is the question. As the gaming industry continues to explore the potential of Web3, Minnow Games' experience with Dimensional highlights the practical challenges and risks associated with integrating blockchain into mainstream gaming. Okay, so again, room for improvement on that front, but I thought that was a super interesting article. And then as well, you guys have probably seen a whole bunch of politics on the timeline. Don't want to bring it up too much, but it is interesting, and I definitely agree with this headline. Crypto becomes U.S. election issue for the first time, and apparently there's a presidential debate tonight. And again, I'm Canadian, so if I'm wrong on that, well, sugar. But will be interesting again to see if crypto's brought up, and of course see that all over your timeline as we do. Again, if you guys are liking these streams, would love for you to give me a like, and if you want to give me a comment, share if you're on X, that'd be fantastic. And if you're on Twitch, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We still got a whole bunch more stories to go, so let's continue. Huge payout expected for a rare coin bought by Ohio farm family and hidden for decades. So basically, this is a post that there was a mint, like a coin mint from 1975 that potentially is worth $500,000. Think of the real world assets, different things. Once these get tokenized, more secure, I don't know. It feels like the whole realm could be opening up massively for some of these old treasures where I like things digital, right? But some of these retro pieces could be going for a bag. Interesting news coming from Garga regarding Dookey Dash, the big game from Bored Ape Yacht Club, saying that they're having a 1-week delay on Dookey Dash. The game is fun, addicting, and ready to go, but a huge potential marketing opportunity came up that required us to push out launch by 1 week. Now, the only thing I'm kind of confused about is this potential. So is this like, hey, like we might be able to get this, but we might not. But if we get it, it's worth delaying for? Or is that just like irrelevant, that word? Still not sure if it'll happen, but we will be massive if we get it. Okay, so there we go. Just read the tweets, Jill. My bad. I mean, what do you think of this? Huge potential marketing opportunity. I don't know how to read that. I really don't. Now, we have seen a huge uptick in ape over the last little bit, 40% on the 7-day. Again, market cap over $500,000. So I've always kind of been like, hey, I get that things are undervalued, but we're screaming about 500 million market cap coins being undervalued. Okay, maybe, but I mean, how much so is the case? Obviously, yesterday we were going over Captain Trippy's very high price prediction. So TFG, if you happen to watch Overwatch back in the day, he actually had a channel that was covering Overwatch, and now he is doing different things with ApeCoin, highlighting it. And is this cringy? Is this amazing? I have no idea. But the ApeCoin Influencer House is launching this month. Let me repeat that again. The ApeCoin Influencer House is launching this month. We got over 20 million total followers between our influencers living in this house, looking to promote and represent as many MBA products as we can. If you're interested in being featured in our content, reply below. And MBA means made by apes. So I think that this is cool, right? Like an initial value, you're like, okay, so are we paying a bunch of people to say like, hey, we like apes and all this kind of stuff? Okay, that's one point, but also, hey, if there's all these products and there's a way that you can kind of highlight them, talking about marketing initiatives, I don't think Garga's referencing this and what he was talking about, but it could be, so we'll have to wait and see. Lot of sales. Holy smokes. Lot of sales. I also just realized that I wasn't on multi-stream, so if anybody said anything during the stream, I apologize. I haven't been able to see it, but the CryptoPunk season is officially here. While you're waiting for the bull run, smart collectors and investors are already snapping up Grail Punks, and the recent purchases are proof of that. So again, Hoodie Punk sells for 1.06 mil 2 days ago, and then actually flipped for about $200,000 a day and a half later. Kind of insane. Also having just a typical zombie punk right here going for $568,000. For anybody that's not in the space, it sounds absolutely insane and unrealistic. I mean, it's happening. So what do we do? So this is pretty crazy where we're seeing a lot of like maxi takes on the timeline where Fred Krueger says, altcoiners, I hate to break it to you, your coin will be worthless in 10 years. Your NFTs will have 0 bidders. Bitcoin will be 1 million. You will have squandered an enormous opportunity. Now, I'm kind of a person that like vehemently disagrees because that's, everybody says don't become like a full maxi, and that's basically what that statement is. I think obviously Bitcoin has its place within everything, but similar to the stock market, you don't all in on only Apple or Microsoft. Most people call you completely insane in that unless you were able to get there at the lows, right? And assuming this guy bought, 5-10 years ago, whatever, all right, he's absolutely pumping his own bags, right? It's all about the perspective thing in that sense. But there was also a post here, which is kind of where I got my idea. Sorry, but I must disagree with you. That's like saying the same about stocks. Just because something is a crypto doesn't mean it has the same form and function as Bitcoin. There are many different use cases and places for altcoins that Bitcoin will never address. Fully agree. I mean, like the sentiment of there's going to be a lot of things that don't work at all in altcoins, totally agree. But still, there's going to be a lot that do well. So my timeline's kind of weird, right? You guys have watched the stream, and clearly this is what I get on my timeline all the time. But I've noticed this more frequent happening of people highlighting the Korean market for crypto. And I'm like, this post a little bit longer, but I'm going to go to one that's a little bit shorter from Yoon here. Korean retail buyers are the single most important demographic for most crypto companies. Bold statement. Let's see what he has to say. Korea boasts one of the largest crypto trading volumes despite our smaller population. The Upbit Global, the number one Korean centralized exchange, surpassed OKX and Coinbase to take and become the second largest CEX in monthly volume in July. Korean traders are a fiend for altcoins. Unlike other global exchanges, most Korean exchange volume is dominated by altcoin volume. Around 70 to 80% of the trading volume is on altcoins. Altcoin trading is so extreme it sometimes causes a phenomenon called kimchi premium. It's where altcoins are trading at 2 to 10% premium due to insane volume from Korean retail and lack of deep enough liquidity. Kimchi premium arbitrage is a real thing. So it's kind of a quick little post that talks about that. Kind of interesting. That altcoins actually get a premium because they go through centralized exchanges and there's not enough liquidity. Mando. This is an article that came out and people are just absolutely going ham on it. The US SEC rakes in $4.68 billion from crypto sector amid 2024 crackdown. Now, if you've been a frequent watcher of the stream, we did go over before how the thought was, all right, well, guys, if they need to keep a job, yeah, no wonder they keep making all these different enforcement things because it keeps them employed. But Mando's saying SEC has made $4.68 billion from crypto firms this year. This is the large majority of their income now. You want to know why Gary hates crypto? Follow the money. And I can imagine, comparatively to a lot of other things, the whole crypto industry feels like it's probably easier to get onto. You know what I mean? Bonk, the meme coin, announcing as a premium partner for Bundesliga's Borussia Dortmund. A lot of action from the Premier League to La Liga to MLS with, we saw Inter Miami where they had the polka dot training jersey sponsors. Seems that's coming back in big waves. Now, quick shout out to Segmint. Again, I do the RWA Segments podcast. If you guys check the description below, we cover real world assets. We've done a whole bunch of awesome interviews with a bunch of different founders, and it's hosted by me. So would love for you guys to go check that out. But they announced that the Pudgy Penguin fam are able to get a big bonus XP drop. And just for anybody that's out there that doesn't have a Pudgy Penguin, you are able to log into the Segment site every day and claim some XP that's going to be used for something spicy a little bit later on. So worth keeping an eye on. And if you're interested in collecting Pokemon cards, etc., watches, real world assets overall, more things are getting added to the platform all the time. We would appreciate you guys checking that out. Okay, that's it for this X feed. Not bad. Listen, all in under 30 minutes too. We just rapid fire, all the headlines. Appreciate the hell out of you guys. Hope you've enjoyed this as